What's up, folks? How's it going tonight? Man, this video is a video that I thought I wouldn't be doing anytime soon, but here we are. As of Sunday at like 8 o'clock is when I found out about it. Gary Rossington of Lynyrd Skynyrd has passed away. Dude, that is a huge loss for the music world. Like he was the last surviving member of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Although we know, most of us fans out here of Skynyrd know that Artemis is still very much alive, but he doesn't play with them anymore. He's not a member of Lynyrd Skynyrd anymore, although he considers himself still a member of that band. But man, Gary was so unique. The stuff that they wrote, him, Alan Collins, Steve Gaines, Ed Keane, Leon Wilkinson, Billy Powell, Ronnie Van Zant, and Artemis, that stuff was so original. And it's the end of an era. There will never be guitar music like that again, you know? And I talk in my videos about Kirk Hammett, James Hetfield being so influential to me as a guitar player. That's very true. It is. But Gary is what taught me how to play lead guitar. Like my dad would sit me down and make me learn Lynyrd Skynyrd songs. Gary's the reason that I wanted a Les Paul. He's the reason that I bought the studio I have now. And, people don't understand the impact that he and Alan and Steve Gaines had on the guitar world. Every guitar player from that era that was growing up at the time of Lynyrd Skynyrd's popularity, the height of their success, they are what taught those guys how to play. You're trying to get into your lead playing. What do you pull out? Lynyrd Skynyrd tab books. And you learn it. And you're learning Gary's licks, Alan Collins' licks, Steve Gaines, Ed Keane. And they're all passed away. Ed Keene's gone too. It's just a huge loss, and it makes me very sad. I was going to make this video sooner, but I've been just sitting here processing it. Because, I grew up around players that played Lynyrd Skynyrd religiously. And one of my good friends that passed away, good old Bugsy, that I talked about before, Rossington was his guitar hero. Him and Alan Collins. They are my classic rock heroes. I love everything about Gary's playing and Alan's playing. It's the sound of the South. Lynyrd Skynyrd is Southern rock. And I know that, they've got Ricky Medlock on guitar now. They got a guy named Sparky that took over, that's his nickname anyway, that took over technically Steve Gaines' role. And they had Gary, up until recently, Gary's health got so bad he couldn't tour anymore. And they have a guy, I believe his name is Ross Robinson, that took over Gary's spot. But man, I just can't think about Lynyrd Skynyrd without Gary. To me, he's kind of like James Hetfield of Metallica. Gary is the soul, the heart and soul of Lynyrd Skynyrd. He was what was carrying that on after Alan's passing and Steve Gaines' death. And even my dad, a massive Lynyrd Skynyrd fan, he was telling me, I can't see Lynyrd Skynyrd without Gary in there. And like Freebird, man. Who else back in that era was playing guitar like that? Eric Clapton, maybe? And even Gary himself said that when Alan played that solo at the end of Freebird, there was nobody playing guitar like that at the time, except maybe Eric Clapton. That's what Gary said. And Gary said, he didn't feel responsible to carry on the legacy of Lynyrd Skynyrd, but he said, that was their dream to make it huge in a rock band. And Ronnie and Steve Gaines and Cassie, Steve's sister, that were killed in the plane crash, they never got to live long enough to see what Freebird and Sweet Home Alabama and Simple Man and stuff would become. They're classic rock anthems, But man, Gary that's a huge loss. I still don't want to believe that he's really gone. Because man, without him, I never would have known what a Les Paul is, what that tone sounds like. I mean, yeah, Kirk Hammett, seeing him play his custom was a big inspiration to me wanting a Les Paul. And then my dad started showing me Freebird the movie when I was a little bitty kid, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I seen Gary with that Les Paul Bernice, the 59 Les Paul. And I was like, that one's prettier than Kirk Hammett's. And Dad was like, watch him play the guitar. Just watch him. And so I started watching Gary play those solos, man. It was like he was barely moving his hands. And that tone was coming out of that guitar. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just his touch. I tried to get that tone on a Les Paul. I never could figure out quite what Gary was doing to make it happen. And I'm thinking maybe it's a combination of Gary's touch on the strings and the wood that particular instrument was made from. But I never thought I had to make this video. I just, I guess it's just like all of us when we hear our favorite bands and we see them. They're invincible, Nothing could ever happen to them. But here we are. The last surviving member of Lynyrd Skynyrd has passed away. And at first, on Facebook and everywhere, they said it was a hoax, the celebrity death hoax. And I was like, yeah, it's fake, whatever. Gary's gonna, he's gonna keep going. He's gonna keep doing what they do. And then about maybe 5 minutes later, after I saw that, Lynyrd Skynyrd posts on their official Facebook page that they have lost Gary Rossington. And I was like, man, it really is true. And I've been doing nothing for the past 3 days. 2 days? Well, now 3 as of right now. But listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd constantly. I mean, songs that I've listened to from the time that I was 7 years old to now. Just letting the albums play all the way through. And it still hits me right here in the heart, man. Just like it always has. And Alan Collins, man, that guy was hell on wheels on the guitar. I mean, Gary was amazing. I was so enthralled with Gary's playing. I was like, man, look at that guy playing slide with a cigarette in his hand, And I was like, this guy's unreal. And then I seen Alan Collins play Freebird live on Freebird the movie. During the solo, he's going off like he always did, and he jumps in the air, like 10 feet in the air, it must have been. To me, anyway, it seemed like. And I was like, look at this band, man. Like, Metallica doesn't do this. They're not jumping around and really feeling what they're doing. At least I didn't think at the time. And I was like, this whole band is just unreal. And then I seen Steve Gaines play I Know a Little. When I heard that guitar opening and watched him play that, I was like, I just kind of, whoa, this guy has something special. And I guess it's the kind of chemistry that you bring together in a band that makes a band like Lynyrd Skynyrd last as long as they have. You know, I mean, the three guitar army. No other band was really doing that back then. Then they had Billy Powell on the piano. And that guy could play anything, it seemed to me when I first discovered them, thanks to my dad. And I thought that about all the members of that band, that Ronnie Van Zant could sing anything. Just think it up, pull it out of thin air, it seemed. And a lot of those songs, where it talks about working hard and, the long day, and, when I come home off the road, don't ask me no questions. If you want to talk fishing, I guess that'd be okay, It like spoke to me. And then when I got older and started working for a living, it really started to speak to me. I was like, everything Ronnie talked about in his lyrics. If you're a working man in the South, you can relate to every word that man spoke. And then Gary, he never talked a whole lot. In interviews and stuff, he let that guitar do the speaking for him. And boy, could he make it speak. I've never seen anything like that. Not even Kirk Hammett, for me. As a youngster, running around my house. And if it wasn't for my dad, I never would have known who Lynyrd Skynyrd was, or the story of that fateful day on October 20th, 1977. Because when I first started listening to them, it was the new iteration with Johnny on vocals. And my dad's telling me, this used to be a whole different band. And I was like, what does that mean? A whole different band. And he brings out Freebird the movie. Watch this. And we watched it. And really, man, other than Gary's been the one constant member ever since it started in 1964, when they were called the 1% Band. There's been a revolving door of guitar players up until Ricky Medlock joined up. And I watched Alan and Gary and Steve do what they did back in the 70s on Freebird the movie. And I was like, wow, this is just, whoa. I can't believe what I'm seeing out of these three guitar players. And I didn't even play guitar then. I was just like, this seems like something I want to do. Maybe someday, And then my dad was like, okay, now we're going to watch, again, the new concert that he had at the time with Johnny on vocals. And I watched that performance, and I was like, it really is a completely different band. The old Skynyrd had a presence about them on stage. Like when Gary played the slide on Freebird, it was like that melody was coming right out of the speakers and speaking right to you. And every time he played that, even now, recently, 2019 or so, it was exactly the same. And it really must be how Gary touched those strings. Just, they all say, tones in the hands. I've never heard anyone play a Les Paul like Gary. I mean, not even Billy Gibbons, Billy Gibbons is amazing. He's a great guitar player. And I highly respect him too. And when he dies, it's going to be the same as it is right now for me. But there was something about Gary's tone with that 59 Les Paul and one of those old classic 70s PV amps that was just the right bread and butter, so to speak. But yeah, I never thought that I would have to make this video. and have to say the words that Gary Rossington of Lynyrd Skynyrd has passed away. We're going to miss Gary. Skynyrd Nation, all of us fans, we love Gary. We love his family. And all of the families of the past members and current lineup. I know in the statement they said, to please give Gary's family space during this difficult time. Which, yeah, I think that's deserved. Because now Gary is in rock and roll heaven with his brothers, Ronnie and Alan Collins, Steve Gaines, and Cassie. Billy Powell has now passed away. Leon's passed away. Huey Thomason, that was part of the one of the lineups from 2000 to 2015 or something like that. He's passed away. Bob Burns, the original drummer, is passed away. I'm not sure if Larry Johnstrom is still around. The original bassist. Little known fact that some people may not know, that it might be my age or younger. When Ed King first joined the band, he's credited for writing Sweet Home Alabama, which is very true. He did. Him and Gary wrote that song. On the guitar, anyway. He was actually recruited first to be a bass player for Lynyrd Skynyrd because Leon had quit for a brief period. And then Ronnie's playing one night with him, they're doing a show, and Ronnie told Ed after the show, "You're about the worst bass player I've ever played with. We're going to get Leon back in the band, and we're going to switch you over to guitar." And then, after that happened, Sweet Home Alabama was born. And man, what a hit. What a hit. They've had so many great songs, so many hits out there. Simple Man, Sweet Home Alabama, and Freebird are the most notable. But I've heard Gary speak in interviews several times that they didn't know any of these songs were going to be hits. He said they're so-called hits. To them, they were just songs that they worked their asses off to write, and they just sounded good to them, so let's put them out. They never thought they'd get anything like what Lynyrd Skynyrd had become. And it was, 50 years almost that Lynyrd Skynyrd has been a band? I'm sure they're going to soldier on without Gary, but me personally, it's just my opinion, I really can't see Lynyrd Skynyrd without Gary walking on that stage with his Les Paul. Which I always thought that Les Paul that he's been playing of recent years was Bernice, his 59, that he named Bernice after his mother. But no, it's not. It's a replica that Gibson built him from the custom shop. That's an exact replica of Bernice. That guitar is now in the Hall of Fame. And I think he said it's in Ohio somewhere. And then Alan Collins' Explorer is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame too. And then Ricky Medlock, he was actually Lynyrd Skynyrd's drummer for a brief period, so he's technically one of the original members too. You could say he's an original member. But I think that Ricky has done a fantastic job of upholding Alan's parts in the band and playing them as true to Alan as he could. I think he's done phenomenal. The new guy they have, they call him Sparky. He's done a phenomenal job of playing Steve Gaines' parts in that band. I don't know the new drummer, since Artemis won't play with him anymore. But he's done a great job of keeping the spirit of Skynyrd alive. And then Gary. Gary's the one. He's the one. I believe if I were to go see Skynyrd back when Gary was still with us, he would have been the reason that I would go. To see Gary Rossington step out on that stage and play that show. Because he was such an inspiration to me such a, how would you say it? Guitar building block for me. Like I said, he's basically what taught me to play lead guitar. Because I remember very well, I wanted to play Metallica. Anything metal, right? And my dad, slow your roll. Here's what you're going to learn. And I looked at it, Lynyrd Skynyrd. And I was like, Dad, I know you love this band, and I love them too, but I really don't want to learn how to play this. And he said, if you can't play this, how are you going to play Metallica? Now, I'm going to say something in this video that I think I'll probably get a lot of shit for. But see, bands like Metallica, Megadeth, all the 80s bands, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, all those guys, they're never going to have the impact in the guitar world that Gary Allan and Steve Gaines of Lynyrd Skynyrd had on the guitar world. I've had people tell me when ex-guitarist from this modern band passes away, I'm gonna cry, Yeah, I get it. Believe me, when Kirk Hammett dies, I'll probably be a bawling little bitch. But when people like Gary Rossington passes away, that is something that reverberates with the whole world. Just because of how much Lynyrd Skynyrd influenced the guitar world. Southern rock, blues music. Southern rock has blues elements in it. Blues and country elements. The foundation of all music is the blues. And for most guitarists that live down here in the South, Lynyrd Skynyrd is the band that you learn when you're first starting to play. But like I said, we're going to miss Gary. I'm really going to miss hearing him play. And I know that I can push play on any Skynyrd song on Spotify and hear Gary play every day. But I'll never get to hear what new things he may have created with Lynyrd Skynyrd if they had decided to do a new record. But it's a huge loss. It really is. And I love Gary to death. He's one of my guitar heroes. And I hope that he's up in rock and roll heaven, playing it as pretty as he can, just like Ronnie said. Every time they played Freebird, he would say, play it pretty for him. And I think that's what Gary's doing right now. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves out here. Play some Skynyrd tonight, tomorrow, all month long. And let's honor a living legend in Gary Rossington. Take care of yourselves out here.